Hello and welcome to another modeling video. This is Alan from the Mokona Man at YouTube with another model video. 3D printing, building and painting the 35th scale Gundam Aerial from Mercury. Utilizing PSK files converted from the Gundam Metaverse leak, individual components subdivided and scaled by a user on 4chan, with the assistance of the scale model calculator scaled up to 35th scale. With a scaling percentage value given in the slicing software, I was able to replicate this among all the components in Anycubic Studios. This video is a follow-up to the Gundam Metaverse leak analysis and everything you need to know about it. It is believed that these files are leaked CAD components from the hobby division. I personally disagree with. Normally for easier fittings, internal parts and connecting points I will scale differently by a few degrees. To prove a point, everything is going to be the universal same size and scale. The part walls are thick and hollowed. The bottom components are supported, which will be easy to clean up. And drain holes. The prints will be done on the Anycubic Mono X with about $7 to $10 of material. Being Sunlu standard grey resin. A cheap foreign imported UV reactive resin. Preheated over 30 degrees. With a clean build plate and a mid-life PFE tank film. As I shoot that off for the next 10 hours to be printed, at the time of filming only the head components were available for this particular model. With the amount of effort involved, I didn't want to do an entire Gunpla kit in a very small scale. Opted just for a bust and decided to draft my own base depicting the neck, shoulder, chest area. Using the original line art and animation stills as reference, this produced another $5 of material. Then thrown on the 3D printer on a second bed, around a period of 5 hours. Back to their head components, all parts formed without issue, failure or peeling off the bed. Unfortunately, we did have a very thin wavy texture develop on the plain surfaces. I suspect with contamination from cleaning alcohol. Wearing gloves, all components were washed in methylated spirits, which was reclaimed for future use. The whole collection of parts allowed to cure under natural sunlight over a period of 24 hours, or not tacky to the touch. Using standard hobby tools like nippers, knife and sandpaper and traditional scale modelling techniques, all the supports were removed and nipped off like nubs, sprues and gates, cut multiple times and flattened with low grit sandpaper due to the density and durability of the material, 80-120 grit. Being resin, it was wet sanded to prevent dust, which is not ideal to harmful to breathe in. What started giving me trouble immediately was fitting, and the pegs did not align into the holes at all, even with a bit of sanding. And the school of thoughts come from two reasons. One, precision tooling for model kits accounts for polystyrene, which has some flex, stretch and vacuum snap fits in together. Resin is just far too rigid and inflexible. One of the modelers who attempted a 1/12 scale strike or aerial took a much smarter approach to me and used all the internal parts from a filament printer and printed in PLA, which has quite a bit of flex. Reduced the size by a few degrees for easy snap fit, and the added detail in resin, which was increased by also a few degrees, allowing a clearance for easy fitting. I had to get around this by using power tools and a Dremel to slim down pegs, connecting points, or even just removing entire internal areas and relying on glue for the surface components to stick together. The strange undesirable texture was not too difficult to sort out through sanding and applying a layer of filler primer and sanding again. I did not think I can be bothered handling this in 1144 1100 scale. Another advantage of scaling this to quite a large size, I can see further detail, slopes, chamfers, fillets, wall inclines, even the safety tabs on the V-fin. It definitely looks like model parts in Gunpla, but there's no evidence that this has any inclines that would come out of an injection mold. Or converting, changing formats, going through blending has really messed up the mesh. We also followed a similar process on the bust base. Another point, a standard Gunpla part would have 3 points of contact to the sprue via gates, which would be cut down to nubs and trimmed up. Each of these parts would have had 20 or more, maybe less, supports, which are like many nubs. The chemical bath, the sanding, the scaling, slicing, and definitely making mistakes on my part is a lot more work than purchasing a kit. The only advantage, it's really cool because it's really big like a garage kit, and the lure of it being a stolen digital asset. Very controversial and exciting to a content creator. After getting each component smooth to the touch, scribing panels out and test fit everything into a workable model, we moved to the priming and painting stage, which is not that much more similar to any of my other garage kit and 3D printing projects. First step, utilizing an airbrush, we coated each part in automotive filler primer to look for any imperfections or finer surface issues. Subdivided everything in components of a similar color according to line art and reference material, and in the correct orientation where light would be cascading down naturally, painted each part in 3-tone of gradient shading from dark to light in a directional sense. The larger white components had more definition added through pre and post shading. After each part was dry to the touch, each of the components were glued together with PVA as to hold in place, with the pegs being sanded and grinded to the point where they were a bit on the loose side. Each component had no problem snapping into place and holding under its own weight. I did make a small miscalculation and had the ball joint half the size for the socket of the head. This was padded out with epoxy putty. Otherwise, it held and supported the heavy weight and mass of the head well enough. After 24 hours, everything received a coat of matte clear. Not gonna lie, this came out pretty cool. I like it quite a bit and was fun. This was also a rush job and has a couple of issues, being completed in 2 weeks around my full-time job and preparing for the Animanga workshop convention. Being topical, I wanted it out just after the Gundam Metaverse leak video, which, thank you very much for supporting and watching, has gone quite viral and the best performing video ever on this channel after 6 months of stagnation and viewership issues, and displayed at the con itself, again being very close to when this incident occurred. If you've not seen the video, definitely check it out. It's 20 minutes and explains how the files came to be and the process they went through. In the end, this was an enormous amount of work and honestly not really worth it. Big shout out and thank you to 4chan for providing this file publicly and opening it to allow anyone to do anything with it. Links and references in the description section down below. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, stay tuned for further content and we'll see you all next time. See you later.